Finally, we have the Tomb of Hunting and Fishing, brought to you by Cabela's and Bass Pro Shop. Okay, maybe not. Maybe Fleet Farm. I mean, we are in Wisconsin, but still, what we're looking at is another Etruscan tomb, and inside of it, we see this very famous image of a youth diving from a cliff. Behind him, someone else climbing up the same cliff. And this imagery of diving into water as entering into the afterlife is actually fairly common. We see it in the Greek world, although we didn't feature it when we talked about the Greeks. We do see similar images, and here we're seeing the same from the Etruscans, but the Greek image is usually diving off of what appears to be a finished marble sort of diving board, whereas here they are cliff diving. They're outdoors. They're enjoying the outdoors. So the idea of diving into the afterlife is an interesting one. It is that sense of transition from one thing to another. We see the person coming up behind him, and that person doesn't appear to have pushed the youth into the water. Rather, it seems to be another person seeking to dive into the water of the immortal spirit, however you want to look at it. If we go back from there, this is from another wall, but I'll show you the whole thing in a second. What we'll see is a boat with people fishing, and the man standing on the right is actually using something called a sling to hunt birds. So clearly the Etruscans are attached to the outdoors, very similar to, for example, the Minoans, which we'll get to in a second. And as you back out, you get a sense of the context of this entire thing. So here's our youth diving on the left. There's a boat right near him. Fishermen, we see happy dolphins, happy birds, more happy dolphins, more fishermen. There's our man fowling, and then more happy birds and happy dolphins. Up above, we seem to see something that may be a banquet or, again, some kind of religious element. Hard to say, probably a banquet, knowing the Etruscans. The ceiling, again, bright, in this case with those red-colored star forms. And what we're looking at is very, very similar, very striking, because of its similarity to the spring fresco at Thera under the Minoans. So like the Minoans, we have these outdoor images, and it shows an acceptance of the outdoors, unlike much of the ancient world, where you see this idea of the civilization versus the wilderness, and you don't go outside because they haven't invented Gore-Tex, and you just don't want to be out there because there are bears and things. Instead, amongst the Minoans and the Etruscans, what you see is this sort of acceptance of the outdoors, of the wilderness. It's much more a part of their lives based on these spaces. And so it gives us an interesting comparison between the Greeks and the Romans and the Etruscans and the Minoans.